By Grand Central Station, I sat down and wept, a novel by Elizabeth Smart. I've only heard good things about this book. I first heard of Elizabeth Smart as an author a year or so ago, I think, through Jason Purcell's channel, The Heavy Blanks. I sort of had her in the back of my mind, and I picked this up at a book sale a month and a half ago. As I understand, it was originally published in 1945 in Canada, but it did not hit the American markets until the 1960s. It was a contentious book at the time because it depicts a woman having an affair with a married man. And I believe it was partly based on Elizabeth Smart's real-life affair with poet George Baker, who was married. It's written in a style known as poetic prose, which is something I've never read before. Basically, what it means is that although it's prose, it reads like poetry. So if you're a fan of poetry, you'll probably really like this book. If you can't stand poetry, you probably won't be able to stand this book. I read it in one sitting, and the writing just kind of carried me along. I went out to the front porch with a glass of wine, and I sat down, and I did not move until I finished this book. It's very short. I think it's only about 128 pages, so about 130 pages. And it is the story of a love affair told from the perspective of the other woman involved. And it's commonly accepted that it is based on the real-life love affair of Elizabeth Smart and George Baker. They were together for many years. They had some children together, but George Baker never left his wife. Like the narrator in this novel, Smart was ostracized for her family for the affair, and I believe her own mother even tried to have this book banned when it was published. The prose follows her inner thoughts. It's like a beautifully written journal. It's tragedy, it's romantic, it's beautifully written. And throughout it, you can tell that Elizabeth Smart had some skill, she had some knowledge. She was a skilled writer. She draws on classical and biblical references throughout. You have centaurs, you have phoenixes, you have what else? Jupiter, the Trojan War, I believe a reference to Lot's wife. And there's one specific passage, I believe is the most well-known passage in the book, where Smart's narrator is quoting a passage from Song of Songs, the book in the Bible. The scene involves the narrator's arrest as she tries to cross a U.S. state line with her lover, and they get detained based on a somewhat obscure and forgotten law that I looked up. It was called the Mann Act, M-A-N-N, and it prevented women from crossing state lines for immoral purposes. When I initially read the scene, I was a little confused. I was wondering how it is that they could arrest her for simply being with a man who was not her husband. They asked her what they had done. They questioned her as to whether she is a communist, which was quite amusing, but throughout the whole thing, she's quoting to herself lines from Song of Solomon. I want to read a little bit of that scene because it's probably the best written scene throughout the entire novel. But at the Arizona border they stopped us and said, "Turn back," and I sat in a little room with barred windows while they typed. "What relation is this man to you? My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies. How long have you known him? I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feedeth among the lilies. Did you sleep in the same room? Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove eyes. In the same bed? Behold, thou art fair, my beloved. Ye pleasant also our bed is green. Did intercourse take place? I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. When did intercourse first take place? The king hath brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me with love. Were you intending to commit fornication in Arizona? He shall lie all night betwixt my breasts. Behold, thou art fair, my beloved. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove eyes. Get away from there, cried the guard, as I wept by the crack of the door. My beloved is mine. "Better not try any funny business," cried the guard. "You're only making things tough for yourself." "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth." "Stay put," cried the guard, and struck me. They are taking me away in a police car. The policeman's wife sits stiffly in the front seat. They are prosecuting me for silence and love. And it goes on and on like that. Although I really enjoyed this, I only gave it 3 stars because I think I was lucky I was in the right mood to read it. You have to be really focused. If not, you'll miss things. As I said, it reads almost like a poem, so you need to be in the mood and in the right frame of mind to be reading a long chunk of poetic sounding language. As with poetry, if you're not paying 100% attention to every last word and every last line, you might end up missing something, and if you miss a couple lines, you're going to end up confused. This started to happen to me a little bit at the end. The last chapter, I ended up reading twice because when I finished it the first time, I wasn't quite clear on how the book had ended, so I had to go back and reread it and process again and clarify exactly how it had ended, and that's probably mostly my fault. And then maybe this is just me being cynical, but there were times when the narrator was expressing her love, expressing her experiences, expressing her devotion to this man, where inside I was going, enough already. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? It's a love story. It's a nice love story. It's beautifully written, but it's a book about a woman literally becoming a martyr. It's as if she knows from the start that this is not going to turn out well for her. This is not going to turn out well for the man's wife. And even though she realizes it's going to end badly, she treats it as if it's something inevitable, as if there's nothing she can do about it and it just has to take its course. As I said though, a beautifully written novel, very enjoyable to read. I would recommend that you check out Elizabeth Smart by Grand Central Station. I sat down and wept.